Hola, hola, and welcome to the video library. This is the first real topic video, so hopefully you've already watched the introduction. If you haven't done that, go back. I'm going to have lots of tips for you on how to make the most out of these videos. My promise to you is I'm going to try to keep everything between about 15 and 35 minutes. It really depends on the topic. But in doing this, you're going to really get some time to practicar un poco. I would love for you to pause, go back, rewatch these videos. So definitely check that welcome out because I don't want to spend too much time on that because, like I said, trying to keep things brief. But we are going to start out with some phrases today. We're going to learn a little bit of nerdy grammar stuff about Spanish, which I know you're thinking, day one, why are we doing this? But I'm going to call back to these topics and this foundational knowledge in every single video from here on out. Something is going to come up. Okay, so let's just get started open-minded. And the cool thing is, if you're starting from dead zero, fantastico, okay, we'll build really, really good habits for you. If you're not starting from zero because you practiced in high school, college, you've done Duolingo, you're going to be pleasantly surprised by how much of this you already know. So let's kick this off, shall we, with a little bit of phrase recognition, perhaps, or brand new things. So we're going to try to fill in as many of these as you can, okay? We're also going to do our own word or phrase at the end. So be thinking about something you'd like to be able to say, because when we're in day one or in review, we want to make sure that we can get out of the gates speaking to people. So we're going to just start with the first interaction you might ever have with someone, which would be good morning. We've got morning and afternoon. Don't know where evening went. I think I'm going to put evening back in. We're going to do evening as well. So we've got good morning is going to be buenos dias. Now here's what you're noticing. You were like, oh, I thought I knew that one. Pause me right now and fill all of these in that you think you know, okay? And try to get the spelling just like I'm doing it. Try to listen to the pronunciation that I'm using as well, okay? Because we don't want to, I don't want to steal your thunder if you already know these. I don't want to just tell them to you. But if you're having any trouble, I got you. So the next one is going to be buenas tardes. And since for whatever reason I killed my good evening, which come on, I'm just going to pop that in here. It's also a buenas. So maybe that's why. I think it's just because I forgot. Buenas tardes and buenas noches. Okay. How are you? Now, here comes our first fork in the road where I tell you, well, it's complicated. I'm kidding, sort of. So we need to decide who is the you that we're talking to. Is this going to be an informal person that we're friends with? Is this going to be somebody more formal, like a boss or an older person? So I'm going to show you both. So you've likely heard, oh my goodness, the typing. ¿Cómo estás? You may not have heard, ¿Cómo está usted? Oh my goodness, it's the pressure of the video. ¿Cómo está usted? So this one is utilizing the formal. So I'm going to put this F here for formal for the second one. But the ¿Cómo estás? I use this like 90% of the time. Whether it's with a new client or with somebody who works somewhere when I'm traveling, like in Santiago behind us. So it's up to you what you use, but I wanted to show you both. If you want to say I am good or bad, well, that's going to be the same estoy, doesn't matter. And then estoy bien or estoy mal. I mean, most people don't admit to being bad, but if you're one of those honest folks, estoy mal is fine for I am bad. Where are you from? Okay, again, if you haven't paused me and tried these on your own because you're like, oh my gosh, I knew that, you probably just need a little more time than I'm giving, and I'm trying just to keep things moving. I'm always going to do that in every single video. So please stop me. Please go back, try them for yourself, but listen for the pronunciation as well. At least that part could help, even if you do know the phrases. This is de donde eres. Now, I decided to go informal with this one. If I want to go formal, though, I'm absolutely able. And just notice that I'm only really changing one thing. I'm changing the verb and then adding a little more description. But I would say, de donde es usted? That's how I'm going to reflect putting that F there again for formal. Okay. I am from the United States. I figure you might be saying this, and the United States is not an easy one, okay? And if you just say America, just note that we all live in America, being Canada, Mexico, right, and the US, so people sometimes are like, we're all Americans, okay? But let's say yo soy de, here it goes, los Estados Unidos. So if you're pronouncing your U's like our English, we want to go unidos, okay? And that's where we say where we're from. You could just say soy de, right? You could start here, soy de los Estados Unidos. You could just say los Estados Unidos. Note that anytime somebody's posing a question to you or answering it, they don't have to answer in full form. Think of how often you do that, right? If someone says, how's it going? Good. Oh, we should be saying I am good. So get your point across is mission number one. Do it eloquently and with all the words in the right place. That's mission numero dos for sure. What is your name? So ¿Cómo te llamas is one option. It's probably the one you're more familiar with. But I will give you another choice, which is ¿Cuál es tu nombre? This one is the more literal, which or what is your name. This one is not a good translation, but it's how do you call yourself? So basically, if you go by a particular name, this is the time to name it. Some people go by a middle name or a nickname. So it's really asking kind of for all of that. Nombre is more kind of the formal, like what is your first name? My name is. I'm going to go with mi nombre es here. If you want to try the other version, which I should probably put first for continuity, it would be me llamo. So I would say me llamo Alyssa or mi nombre es Alyssa. So we're not using this es here because it's I call myself Alyssa. There's no need for other words. Fun fact, I hear that all the time. Okay, it's a pleasure to meet you. Do you want to be saying es un placer conocerle a usted? No, you're going to slam your laptop shut right now. And that's not what I'm looking to do. So we want to do just mucho gusto. We want to keep this fresh and clean and light in 2 words. So that's where we're at. At your service, I doubt we know this one. I only throw it in here because this is my joke of like, someone's going to say to you, a la orden, when you walk in a shop or when you're meeting a colleague who works in a different office or something. You don't have to say anything back is the idea. This is one of those where you just go like, oh, gracias or nothing. But they're not actually asking you a question. They're just saying like, hey, I work here in case you need anything, right? See you tomorrow could kind of get into our hasta la vista, baby, which is, Arnold's pronunciation is fine, I suppose, but we would want to say hasta mañana. And if you're picking up on my fancy upside down exclamation point, that's fun, huh? And then we'll also not pronounce this H. Just like when you say hola, you're not pronouncing the H, right? Please. We got por favor. We got gracias. These are pretty standard. You're welcome. You might know de nada, but you might want to know con gusto, which is the best. It's basically saying like, it's my pleasure, as opposed to just being like, you're welcome. I'm sorry is also a fantastic translation. Lo siento, which means I feel it, like an empathy as opposed to just I am sorry. I don't understand has 2 choices. I'm hearing out in my student land, I'm hearing a lot of comprender. So I'm hearing a lot of like no comprendo. And I'm super happy with that. But I also say like no entiendo personally. Both of them are, one's comprehend, one's understand. What's the real difference, right? And then this is a command. So I'm doing my upside down exclamation point. I'm rolling my R. I know you're like, what? Not on day 1. Don't do it to me. And then I'm showing you the formal just because I want you to see how close they are. But these are commands. I'm bossing somebody around by saying repeat. Obviously, it's not a forceful one, but it's worth noting. So I would say repite or repita, whichever one you want, honestly. You could just trail off at the end and someone will probably understand what you're saying. So more slowly is más lento or más despacio. And I know that having so many dashes of different options is not helpful to you right now. So I would go through and make your choice for the day, because when we get to the end of this, which we're almost there, you're going to be selective of what words you like the best. Okay. And you're going to pick the ones that if you already know them, no need to write them down. If you've known buenos dias forever, no need to put it on a flashcard. But this is the start of your journey of I'm going to learn a lot of new words. Where am I putting them? How am I memorizing them? What's my strategy? Because you're going to want to have a strategy. And this is your first input, right? This is your first list of words and phrases. So the last one is a word or phrase that you're going to choose. So take a second with your pen and paper, write down the one that you want to learn, and you're going to get to go out in the wild and find it now. So you'll go to wordreference.com, you'll go to SpanishDictionary.com. You'll go to Google Translate, whatever. You're going to put in your English of what you want to be able to say. I would go with something pretty simple at this point. I would go with like a basic phrase as opposed to something really complicated. Like if you wanted to say, see you soon, or how's it going? You know, if you want some iteration on what we've done, that's fantastic. Throw it in the translator, see what comes out. But I wouldn't put in like full sentences because it can just start to get a little dicey what you're going to get out of that. Okay, so whatever you're filling in here, you're filling in. This is your copy. The video companion, you can always get, you can always download this. I would print things out if you're the type of person who likes to mark things up. So for future videos, you might want to print out the video companion and follow along. I'm going to oftentimes say, let's pause here and have you try this, or I'll give you instructions about how to do the homework, and then you can try some examples while you're following along. Okay, let's take a peek at all of our vocales, which are vowels. This one apparently did not make the cut for this page, so let's bring it back up. So they're going to sound un poco diferente, a little bit different than English, which we're prepared for. We're in a foreign language class. We know this. So this letter A, as in apple, is going to be A. But then this letter here is going to be E, which sounds like our letter as in apple, right? So this is A for the letter E in English. But then down here, E in English is going to be E for I. So just notice it's kind of like a waterfall of confusion. I'll do them all at the end, I promise. So E, O, same. Ooh, we heard this with unidos. So just be advised that anytime you want to use a U, it's not you like we do. I know you can see me like chomping on that, but we would do ooh, sort of like something is surprising, like, oh, ooh. Or when I watch somebody fall down, I'm like, ooh, that hurts, right? So all the way down, it would be A, E, O, and U. Fantástico. So now we get down here to pronunciation. Here's what I want you to know. This is going to take a lot of practice and time. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it. I'm going to go pretty quickly, but you're probably going to want to go back again and try this. So first thing is we really care about how our words end when we want to pronounce. I know we haven't done alphabet in here. We're going to talk about that in the pronunciation guide. So fear not, that's coming later. But for now, it's just if it's ending in a vowel or an S or an N, whatever word it is, whether it's an adjective or a verb, I'm going to pronounce the second to last vowel. I don't have a better way of saying this. I wish I did. But basically, I mean, go to this O, count one back. So it'll sound like hablaron, hablaron. Okay, so I'm giving this A a little more emphasis. And if you're noticing my like mountaintop diagram, or if you want to do like a heartbeat monitor, there's one heartbeat or one mountain per word. And that's it. If you're noticing there's 2 or 0, we are mispronouncing the word. We're missing an accent. Something is wrong, okay? Because it should always have that melody. And that's why people say that Spanish sounds so musical and fantastic, is because of these really strictly adhered to reglas or rules. So the second one, right, we're seeing an A at the end, which is our last vowel. We count one back and we get gasolina. Try both of those for yourself if you haven't, or hit rewind. Now, if the word ends in something else, like let's say it's ending with another consonant, basically, that's not S or N, so an L or a D, for example, I'm going to put the last vowel is going to get my mountaintop, or is going to get my heartbeat. So it'll sound like ah. So remember, I'm still pronouncing my words with all those letters and the vowels. Animal, animal. It's kind of a ramp. And then unidad. So we're really kind of peaking at the end, if you will. And then I got good news for you. If you see an accent, which I would scan for first, honestly, if you can go and look at your word and say, am I seeing any accent? That's your loophole. If you see an accent, pronounce it with the most emphasis. So make that your emphasized vowel. You'll only ever see them on vowels. So it's not going to steer you wrong. So in this one, I'm like, oh, it ends in, oh, wait, I don't care. I see an accented O. So I would say consideración. And difícil. Difícil. I know these are looking even smaller than I would like. There we go. So this is an accented I in the middle, an accented O at the end. So just keep an eye out for these, because if you see one, you're off the hook, right? You don't really have to do as much work as these two where you're deciding, well, what does it end in? Let me do my counting and so on. I know this feels like the driest thing you've ever heard in your entire life, but just imagine if somebody came to you when you were little in English and said, I have a rule for you to pronounce every word in English. You'd probably be like, who cares? I'm 5, whatever. But it's like, that would be a fantastic tool to have. And that's what I'm trying to give you early on in your Spanish journey. So try pronouncing each of these words if you haven't gotten a chance to. Any word on any of my lesson plans in your complete Spanish step-by-step book, in a transcript of a podcast you're listening to later, all of those are great practice. So I would print this chart out or handwrite it out and just have it next to you as a key every single time you see a new word. Okay, let's keep moving. So we're going to start conjugating some verbs, not yet, but in Lección 3. We're going to get into ser and estar, our first 2 verbs. We're going to do this with every single tense, every single verb. You're going to do this a million times, okay? Because there's a lot of different options for actions that we can take, right? Eat and drink and sing. But the people that we are talking about, or the subject pronouns that we are conjugating for, I know that sounds really grammatical, but basically who's the people that are doing the thing? So if it's I, it's yo. If it's an informal person, which I was talking about above, that's tú. If it's the formal, I know you saw this word, that's usted for the you, or just él or ella, double L. We'll talk about that later. Nosotros or nosotras is we. This is really hard to pronounce, so please try nosotros. Similarly, vosotros, same thing, but a V, and that's only in Spain. So if that one's not one that you know yet or care to know, totally fine. And then our double L's get us ellos and ellas and ustedes. So 2 versions of they based on gender, and then you all. Everybody forgets the you all. I don't know why, but just try to take on board that these are different people. You can start jotting this down and memorizing it before we even get our first verb. It would actually be good if you did, because then when I throw in the complexity of the verb on the other side, you're not worrying about this first component that we're learning. Then lastly, we're talking sentence order and masculine, feminine. This is where things feel different. Spanish a lot of the time seems really intuitive and really easy. This is not always the case, especially with something like the big dog in English. We describe before we say what the thing is. I think that's kind of dumb, because I want to know what it is that's big first, like the perro, before I hear that it's grande. It kind of takes the mystery out of things. And then there's another thing that I can't really defend. It's gender. So we have gender for every single noun, and every adjective has the potential, not all of them do, but some of them change gender as well. So if I am feeling tired as a female, it's cansada. If you're feeling tired as a male, it's cansado. Keep an eye out for this, because it's not something that we do. And in that same vein with gender and needing to consider that, we're going to have different types of the, okay? So we're going to have to deal with the fact that we've got la and las, el and los. I don't know why those were yelled at you, but whatever. So there's cuatro versiones of a definite article, meaning the. So no longer can we just say the lamp, the house, the party. We have to make a selection for which that we need. That sounds really daunting right now, but eventually you're going to get really natural with, oh, I have some rules, which I'm going to teach you about what is feminine and masculine. So how do I know if it's el or la? And then, oh, if there's more than one, I'm using these plural versions. The other thing that we do also in English is something indefinite, meaning you don't really know what specifically it is. So if you're saying, I need a break or a vacation or a suggestion, you're not really saying what it needs to be. You're leaving it open-ended. But if you need the suggestion that was mentioned on the call last week, that's a very specific suggestion that hopefully the person can call to mind. So you're using either of these 2 charts anytime we're talking about a noun. That could be the, right? People, places, and things. So a little bit of práctica for you is going in and saying, okay, I want to jump charts, right? I want to be able to go back and forth between the and a, and some. So we would start with los carros is the cars. And we could a, and sum it to some cars with unos. So I jumped from los down to unos. So we're just getting good at kind of mapping the same concept of masculine plural and masculine plural here, okay? And you're going to fill in your own. You've got just a couple here. I am not going to assign you any homework in the book yet, okay? Your only assignment, because we have arrived at the end of this plan de lección, the only assignment is up here. I really want you to try out learning some vocabulary. Pick your top 5 or 10. It doesn't matter. It can be a really small list. Make it something that's really doable so that when you've learned those, you're like, look at this. I learned 5 new Spanish words this week. And you can kind of snowball that into more and more practice because you're building the habit. You've got your flashcards. You're good to go, right? You know to use both sides. So that's your first task, as well as picking your word or phrase. So make sure you take care of that. You're also going to try pronouncing a, e, o, u, so that those sound really good. And then you're going to try your best to copy down this table as well as this. So you're really just pulling things out, writing them in your own handwriting, making sense of everything on your own terms before we move into the next lección, where we're going to throw in how to decide on gender, your first verb, and things like that. So we want to take this slow and really get the rhythm of things before we start adding a ton of complexity to things, because this is daunting. And if it is just review for you, hopefully you got something out of this and found it beneficial. If you are brand new, we're going to take it nice and slow, explain things, give you lots of practice so that all of these things stick instead of, oh yeah, I learned that once and now I don't remember any of it. So we're going to take it our time and make sure that this stuff really gets cemented. So thanks for joining me for your first video. If this was your first video, gracias por estar aquí. I'm really excited to see you in our next video, lección. Well, 1B is probably where you'll go next to pronunciation, and then we'll work into lección 2 with some more grammatical concepts. So I'll catch you then. Nos vemos pronto.